Then our Allah, devil, serving soothsayer,
recited the following verses. I saw a sign which shone in the black clouds. I comprehended it as light which illuminated the full moon. I hoped to have it as a source of pride which I might take back with me. By Allah, no other woman has plundered your person of which Aminah has. Not all the fortune which the young man inherits comes from resolve, nor does that which escapes him come from remiss. So if you desire something, behave with restraint, for 2 grandfathers combine to ensure it for you. A hand clenched or outstretched will ensure it for you. When Aminah conceived that which she conceived from him, she conceived an incomparable glory.
From black signs to pride, from full moons to plundering, from inherited fortunes to grandfathers ensuring loot, the young prophet would get what he desired from both open and clenched fists. This passage is so fraught with portent, so twisted with harbingers of Mohammed's Khan, the originator must have laughed himself silly as his quill met parchment. He evidently got himself so worked up he bungled the tense in his parting salvo. Once again, a simple story belies the nature of Islam. Our guy is better than your guy, and we will say anything, no matter how absurd, to prove it. Abdallah lived long enough to father a son, but not long enough to see him born. In a haunting overture of what was to come, the prophet's father died while on a business trip to Yathrib. 52 years later, the religion of Islam would die there as well, when a prophet went on a business trip to Yathrib and became a profiteer. In an attempt to make Mohammed appear messianic, our hero was portrayed as having been born to considerable fanfare. There were celestial fireworks, regal visitors, and an angelic host, a veritable cornucopia of miracles. And that the worst of these were laughable and the best were copied from the Gospels, I'll spare you the gory details, especially since none of them make any sense in the context of what happened next. There is, however, one in Ishaq's biography that is intriguing.
It is alleged in popular stories, and only Allah knows the truth, that Aminah, the mother of Allah's apostle, used to say when she was pregnant, "A voice said to me, 'You are pregnant with the Lord of this people,' and when he is born, say, 'I put him in the care of the one from the evil of the envier,' then call him Muhammad." She saw a light come forth from her, by which she could see the castles in Syria.
Envy is what drove Mohammed to create Islam. The care of the evil one, better known as Satan, may well have been what inspired him. The truth is rather ignoble. Muslim scholars know nothing about Mohammed's birth and very little about his childhood. They missed his birthday by 18 years when they claimed he was born in the year of the elephant, recently dated to 552 A.D. But to make their prophet fit Qusay's profile of being 40 when he staked his claim to the Kaaba, Islamic historians claim Mohammed was born in 570, exactly 40 years before the first revelation. Missing a date this important by 18 years calls all of Islam's oral testimony into question. By way of example, this did not occur.
Ishaq: I heard a Jew calling out at the top of his voice from Yathrib, "O Jews, tonight has risen a star under which Ahmad is to be born."
Born fatherless, Mohammed's mother abandoned him, giving him up to be suckled by a Bedouin woman. With his father dead and his mother poor, no wet nurse wanted the infant because the burden exceeded the potential remuneration. Raising another's child in the inhospitable desert was done for money, not love. The least qualified of the wet nurses, we are told, after failing to find a wealthy kid, reluctantly snatched the last available newborn, the would-be prophet, and hauled him off into the wilderness. A hadith explains.
Ishaq: Halima went forth with her baby, whom she was nursing, with other women in search of babies to nurse. She was destitute and could not sleep because of the weeping of her hungry child. She had no milk to give him.
Halima was in no position to suckle another child. This was a disaster waiting to happen.
Ishaq: When Halima reached Mecca, she set out to look for foster children. The apostle of Allah was offered to every one of us, and each woman refused him when she was told he was an orphan, because we hoped to get payment from the child's father. We said, "An orphan?" and we spurned him because of that. Every woman who came with me got a suckling except me. And when we decided to depart, I said, "I do not like the idea of returning with my friends without a suckling. I will take that orphan." I took him for the sole reason that I could not find anyone else.
So much for the light theory. Women were throwing themselves at Mohammed's dad to sire him, but no one wanted to raise him. That just doesn't make any sense. What happened out there in the blowing sands and the blistering heat is anyone's guess. All we know is that a baby was abandoned by his mother and given to a woman who was ill-prepared to care for him. The only testimony that survives is in the Quran, a haunting and reoccurring theme that suggests he may have been abused. Allah's revelations speak of an orphan boy with wealthy relatives being abandoned, treated poorly, and being shut out of the family business, the Kaaba Inc. Permutations of this theme permeate Allah's book, compelling the Muslim sages to give this mess a prophetic twist. Ibn Ishaq claims that when Muhammad was 2, Halima brought him back to his mother, Aminah.
But she sent him back. Some months after his return to the desert, 2 men in white seized the boy, threw him down, and opened up his belly, stirring it up.
We are told that Mohammed was livid.
Halima said, "I am afraid that this child has had a stroke, so I want to take him back before the result appears." She carried him back to Aminah and said, "I am afraid that ill will befall him, so I have brought him back to you." She asked what had happened. I said, "I fear that a demon has possessed him."
She was right. Mohammed confirms the spiritual encounter.
Ishaq: "They seized me and opened up my belly, extracted my heart, and split it. They extracted a black drop from it and threw it away. They washed my heart and belly with snow until they had cleaned them." Muslim: "Gabrial said to Mohammed while he was playing with his playmates, he took a hold of him and lay him prostrate on the ground and tore open his breast and took out the heart. Then he extracted a blood clot out of it and said, 'This was the part of Satan in you.' And then he washed it with the water of Zamzam in a golden basin, and then it was joined together and restored to its place. The boys came running to their mother and said, 'Mohammed has been murdered,' and they all rushed toward him. I myself saw the marks of the needle on his breast."
If this occurred, it was Lucifer, not Gabriel, and he was placing his spirit inside. Organ removal and washing are satanic, part of occult ritual worship, the kind of thing Mohammed's father and grandfather were into. And ironically, if it had happened, it would be miraculous, and therefore would be in conflict with the Quran. Allah's book said that the only miracles associated with the prophet was the revelation of the surahs themselves. In Quran 21:5, we find that one of the many arguments used by Mohammed's critics at the time was that he couldn't do miracles. Since the Judeo-Christian prophets could and did, they said that he couldn't be a prophet. If Mohammed had been involved in a miracle, or had done one, all he would have to do to silence his critics was to explain the ones that had taken place, or simply summons his God's power to perform one. But no. 6th century surgery aside, the Islamic sages say that before the year was out, Aminah died. A slave girl took care of our young hero for a while before his grandfather finally took an interest in him, and even this is potentially disturbing. For the scriptures say of Abdul Muttalib's affection,
Ishaq: "He would make him sit beside him on his bed, and would stroke him with his hand. He was extremely fond of him, and used to constantly pet him."
Straight from the devil, we learn.
Ishaq: "There was a seer,"
an occult prophet,
"who came to Mecca to look at Mohammed. She said, 'Bring me that boy, for I just saw now that by Allah he has a great future.'"
Then disaster strikes once more.
Tabari: "Abdul Muttalib died 8 years after the year of the elephant. He entrusted the future messenger's care to his uncle Abu Talib, because Abu and Abdallah had the same mother."
Needless to say, Mohammed had one whacked-out childhood. It's not hard to understand why he was so insecure, or why he turned out as he did.